The unconscious loves first. Consciousness catches up later. Carl Jung. Before we begin, here's a small ritual. Write in the comments one word that accurately describes your current state. Sign it, and let's get started. You wake up one morning and feel that strange heaviness inside your chest. There is no clear reason for it. No fight, no disappointment, nothing specific. Just this dull emptiness that sits quietly, pulling you somewhere, but you don't know where. It's like waiting for something undefined, like standing on the edge of a cliff, staring into a fog. This feeling doesn't scream. It whispers. It lives underneath your words, beneath your confident face, behind your daily routines. And if you're honest, you've felt it for years. You've tried to explain it. Friends told you to relax. Therapists said to love yourself first. Self-help books promised happiness through positive thinking, but nothing really touched that space inside you. Nothing quieted that silent pull. Because it's not about what you think. It's about what happens far before your thoughts even begin. Carl Jung discovered something most people still don't understand. A man loves before he knows it. Long before his mind says, "I love her." Something inside him already made that choice. This isn't romance. This isn't poetry. This is biology, psychology, trauma, and shadow. This is the deep machinery of the psyche, working silently, choosing for you before you're aware of it. You see her. You notice her smile, her movement, her voice. But these are only triggers. The real spark happened even before your eyes met. Your unconscious recognized something familiar, something that touched the deepest patterns you carry. You don't fall in love because she is perfect. You fall because your hidden parts see something in her, something that reflects your unmet needs, your unresolved wounds, your forgotten longings. And this is why you can feel an instant pull to one person while staying completely indifferent to hundreds of others. Your mind tries to find reasons after the fact, but the decision has already been made in the silence of your shadow. This is not weakness. This is not emotional immaturity. This is the architecture of your psyche at work. By the end of this video, you'll see why this silent pull is both your greatest risk and your greatest teacher. And you'll understand how to stop being a prisoner of unconscious love and start building something real. Most people believe that love is a conscious choice, that you meet someone, analyze their qualities, weigh the pros and cons, and then decide whether you love them or not. This is the lie that self-help books, coaches, and even some therapists keep selling. They tell you to search for compatibility, shared values, and common goals, as if love were a contract negotiated between two rational minds. But the truth is far more uncomfortable. You do not choose who you are drawn to. Your body chooses first. Your unconscious recognizes something long before your conscious mind even notices the person standing in front of you. The triune brain model, introduced by Paul MacLean, helps us understand why. Your brain is not a single unit making logical decisions. It is a layered system. The reptilian brain controls your basic survival instincts. The limbic system, your emotional brain, governs attachment, pleasure, and bonding. Only the neocortex, the newest part of your brain, handles logic, language, and conscious thought. When you encounter someone, your limbic system reacts first. Your pulse changes, your breathing shifts, your pupils dilate. Your entire physiology responds in milliseconds. You haven't even thought about the person yet, but your body already decided, this one feels familiar. That familiarity is not random. It is a code written deep into your unconscious from your earliest relationships. The way your mother held you, the way your father spoke to you, the emotional atmosphere of your childhood home. All of it forms templates. These templates shape what feels right to you in a partner. You are not drawn to people because they are objectively better or worse. You are drawn because they fit your internal pattern of attachment, even if that pattern includes pain. Most psychologists won't tell you this because it dismantles the comforting myth of control. They prefer to talk about communication skills and emotional intelligence. But those tools only work once you've faced a harder truth. Your unconscious is steering the wheel long before you touch the controls. You believe you are choosing, but your shadow is already at work, selecting partners who echo unresolved pieces of your past. And this is why men often chase after women who trigger their deepest insecurities, who reflect the very wounds they've tried to forget. The pull you feel is not always toward healing. It can be toward repetition, toward reenacting old dramas in the hope of rewriting them. This is why so many relationships feel both intoxicating and destabilizing. The emotional high is not always a sign of true connection. Sometimes it's the alarm bell of familiar trauma. This sounds brutal. It is, but it is also liberating, because once you see the mechanism, you are no longer trapped by it. You stop asking shallow questions like, "Why am I so obsessed with her?" and start facing the real question, "What part of me is she activating that I have refused to face?" Robert Sapolsky, one of the most respected neuroscientists, explains that the decision of attraction happens in milliseconds within subcortical structures of the brain. Long before you form any conscious thought, your brain's reward system scans for signals: facial symmetry, voice tone, body language, scent. But even these signals are secondary. What truly triggers the pull is the unconscious recognition of patterns that resemble your earliest emotional experiences. You are not falling for the person herself. You are falling for what she represents in your internal world. Barbara Fredrickson's research on micro-moments of resonance shows how even brief shared glances, synchronized breathing, or subtle mimicry can spark intense feelings of connection. These tiny moments bypass your conscious filters and go straight into your nervous system, creating a powerful sense of familiarity and safety, or danger. Freud called this the repetition compulsion. We unconsciously seek out partners who allow us to replay unresolved dynamics from childhood, hoping for a different outcome. You may find yourself irresistibly drawn to someone who ignores you, criticizes you, or withdraws emotionally, not because you enjoy suffering, but because this dynamic mirrors unresolved wounds with a distant or critical parent. The unconscious believes that if it can master this dynamic in adulthood, it will finally resolve the old pain. But this often leads to cycles of frustration, disappointment, and confusion. You feel trapped in relationships that simultaneously hurt you and feel impossible to leave. Carl Jung took this understanding even deeper with his concept of projection. He explained that we project parts of our own psyche onto others, especially those aspects we have repressed or denied. For men, this often manifests as the projection of the anima, the inner feminine. You might see in a woman not who she truly is, but who you unconsciously need her to be. She becomes the carrier of your lost tenderness, vulnerability, or creativity. The qualities you are not allowed to develop in yourself now appear irresistibly attractive in her. But because these are your disowned parts, you mistake her for the source of your completeness. You believe you need her to feel whole. This is why the intensity of early romantic attraction often feels so overwhelming. It is not simply chemistry or compatibility, it is your unconscious crying out for integration. The woman awakens your unmet needs, and for a moment, you glimpse the possibility of healing through her. But this is a dangerous illusion. No partner can carry the weight of your unhealed self. Sooner or later, the projection collapses under the strain of reality, revealing the gap between who she truly is and who your psyche needed her to be. Understanding this mechanism is painful because it strips away comforting fantasies, but it also opens the door to real freedom. When you see that your love often starts as a projection of your own unfinished business, you gain the power to do the inner work yourself rather than expecting someone else to complete you. John Bowlby's attachment theory gives us another critical layer. From infancy, your nervous system memorizes emotional patterns based on how your caregivers responded to your needs. Were they warm or distant, consistent or unpredictable? These early experiences form attachment styles that remain embedded in your psyche and body. As an adult, you unconsciously seek partners who match these emotional blueprints. If you experience secure attachment, you are drawn to stability and trust. But if your attachment was anxious, avoidant, or disorganized, you may feel most attracted to partners who recreate that instability. The chaos feels familiar. It feels like home, even when it hurts. Bessel van der Kolk's work on trauma adds an even deeper layer. He explains that the body keeps the score. Your muscles, your breath, your heartbeat, all store memories of unresolved pain. When you meet someone who activates these memories, your body reacts instantly. The tension in your stomach, the rush of heat, the shallow breath, all signal that your unconscious has recognized something. But instead of interpreting this correctly as a warning, you often mistake it for passion. You tell yourself, "This must be love," when in fact, it may be the reactivation of unhealed wounds. Carl Jung's concept of the shadow further explains why this process is so powerful. The shadow holds all the parts of yourself that you have rejected or repressed. Your vulnerability, your fear, your longing for intimacy. These disowned aspects don't disappear. They live within you, waiting for expression. When you meet someone who mirrors these parts, your unconscious sees a chance for integration. But because these qualities feel foreign to your conscious identity, you project them onto the other person. She becomes not just attractive, but essential. You believe she completes you because she carries what you have lost in yourself. This is why relationships often begin with such intense idealization. You don't see the person as she is. You see her as the vessel for your healing. This projection can create breathtaking intimacy at first. You feel understood, seen, alive in a way you haven't before. But over time, as reality intrudes, the projection starts to crack. Her flaws emerge. Your unmet needs resurface. The disappointment feels unbearable, not because she failed you, but because your unconscious fantasy could not be sustained. The paradox is brutal, but freeing. Your deepest attractions are often not signs of destiny, but signals of unfinished emotional business. The people you love most intensely may reflect the very parts of yourself that you've refused to face. Once you recognize this, you stop blaming your partners for failing to heal you. Instead, you begin the hard work of reclaiming your lost parts, making yourself whole without demanding it from someone else. This unconscious process of loving before knowing has both profound advantages and serious dangers. On one side, it allows for deep, instant connection that transcends rational barriers. You feel alive, inspired, and energized. The world sharpens, colors become brighter, and you suddenly have a sense of purpose. This intense emotional state can fuel creativity, ambition, and even personal growth. The bond feels magical, as if the universe conspired to bring two souls together. You experience a temporary sense of wholeness because the person in front of you seems to fill your inner gaps. These moments can create some of the most beautiful memories in life, moments that feel sacred and transformative. But the same mechanism that creates this beauty also carries enormous risk. Because the foundation is built on unconscious projections, the relationship often rests on unstable ground. You are not seeing the real person. You are seeing your unmet needs reflected back at you. The more intense the attraction, the more likely it stems from unresolved wounds rather than true compatibility. Over time, as the daily reality of the relationship unfolds, the projection begins to break apart. What once felt like destiny now feels like disillusionment. You may feel betrayed, not because your partner changed, but because she never truly was the person your unconscious imagined. This creates a cycle of idealization and devaluation. At first, you place her on a pedestal, believing she holds the key to your happiness. But as the cracks appear, disappointment sets in, leading to frustration, conflict, and sometimes resentment. You may even leave the relationship, only to find yourself repeating the exact same pattern with someone new. The unconscious script continues, pulling you into familiar pain disguised as love. Another danger is emotional dependency. When you believe that someone else completes you, you hand them enormous power over your emotional state. Their approval becomes essential, their rejection devastating. This dependency can lead to controlling behaviors, anxiety, and a loss of personal identity. Instead of two whole individuals building a partnership, the relationship turns into a desperate attempt to maintain the illusion of completeness. The paradox is that the very intensity you crave is often a warning sign. True, stable love feels safer, calmer, and less chaotic. It allows for mutual growth, respect, and authenticity. But for many, especially those with unresolved trauma, this steadiness feels foreign, even boring. The chaos of unconscious love feels familiar, seductive, and alive, even though it often leads to pain. Understanding these dynamics doesn't eliminate the emotions. You will still feel attraction, excitement, and longing. But awareness gives you the power to question the source of your feelings. You begin to ask, am I drawn to this person because of who she truly is, or because of what my unconscious needs her to represent? This question is the first step toward breaking the cycle and moving toward relationships built on reality rather than projection. Now, we move into the practical work, because knowing the mechanism is not enough. If you are a man, you need tools to recognize whether your feelings are genuine or driven by unconscious patterns. The first tool is radical self-observation. When you feel that powerful pull toward a woman, stop and ask yourself, what exactly am I feeling? Go beyond the simple answers of attraction or chemistry. Are you feeling seen, validated, rescued, or finally safe? These emotions often point to unmet childhood needs rather than true compatibility. Write them down. Create a list starting with the phrase, I see in her. List every quality that draws you in. Then ask yourself honestly, which of these are qualities I lack or suppress in myself? Often, you will discover that your attraction is not about her, but about your desire to reclaim lost parts of your own psyche. The second tool is to pay attention to your body. Your body reacts faster and more honestly than your mind. Notice your breathing, your heart rate, the tension in your stomach or chest. If your body feels overly activated, almost panicked, or desperate around her, it may be a sign of trauma activation rather than healthy attraction. Ground yourself by focusing on your breath and observing these sensations without judgment. Your body is giving you clues about whether this connection is rooted in genuine interest or unconscious compulsion. For women, The approach is slightly different, but equally important. When interacting with a man, observe his body language during your early encounters. The unconscious reveals itself before words are spoken. Watch for expanded pupils, micro-hesitations in speech, shifts in breathing, and how his body leans towards you without him realizing. These subtle cues indicate that his emotional system is activated on a deep level. However, be cautious. Just because a man shows intense interest does not mean he sees you clearly. He may be projecting his unmet needs onto you, idealizing you as the solution to his inner emptiness. Do not mistake his passion for true emotional availability. Both men and women must learn to differentiate between projection and presence. Projection feels urgent, overwhelming, and filled with fantasies of completion. Presence feels calm, steady, and grounded in mutual reality. When two people meet in presence, they see each other as they are, without needing the other to fill an inner void. This kind of connection may feel less dramatic, but it holds the potential for lasting, mature love. Practical exercises can also help. Journaling your emotional triggers, discussing patterns with a therapist trained in attachment and trauma work, and practicing mindfulness all support the process of bringing unconscious material into awareness. The goal is not to eliminate attraction, but to purify it, to ensure that your love grows from a place of wholeness rather than need. The fact that you love before you know doesn't mean you are doomed to confusion. This early unconscious pull can serve as valuable information if you know how to work with it. The key is not to suppress these feelings, but to observe and test them. When you feel that surge of attraction, acknowledge it without immediately acting on it. Give yourself space to separate the initial spark from reality. The first sign that your feeling may be rooted in genuine connection is consistency over time. If your attraction remains strong after truly seeing her flaws, differences, and imperfections, it likely comes from a deeper place. Temporary infatuation fades when fantasy meets reality. Real attraction holds steady even after fantasy dissolves. Next, examine emotional safety. When you are with her, do you feel calm or anxious? Real love creates a sense of internal peace, even in the face of challenges. If your emotions constantly swing between euphoria and anxiety, you may be trapped in a projection loop. True connection stabilizes you. Projections destabilize. Look at how both of you handle conflict and disagreement. Can you express vulnerability without fear of rejection? Can you both tolerate emotional discomfort and still remain connected? The ability to stay emotionally present during difficulty is a marker of mature love. Also, observe your personal growth. Real love challenges you to expand, not shrink. If the relationship encourages you to face your fears, take responsibility for your patterns, and become more authentic, it's likely rooted in truth. Projection-based love often demands that you abandon parts of yourself to maintain the illusion. In healthy love, you feel more yourself, not less. Finally, time is your greatest ally. The longer you allow space between the initial spark and major commitments, the clearer the true nature of your feelings becomes. Real love deepens as both partners reveal their full selves. Infatuation depends on mystery. Love depends on honesty. If you recognize yourself in these words, write in the comments, "I no longer run from pain." Let's see how many here are ready for the truth. This is only the beginning. We're sure you've discovered plenty of value, so subscribe now and stay connected.